I want to be crystal clear with you about what NANOE is all about. NANOE is all about Anna. Anna was born with a severe spinal condition. And the doctors told her parents that she wouldn't live past the age of 2. And then when she was 2, she went back to the doctors, and the doctors told her parents, well, Anna's not going to live past 4. And then when she was 4, she went back to the doctors, and the doctor says, well, Anna's not going to live past 8. And then when she was 8 years old, she got connected with a nonprofit in Roanoke, Virginia called Healing Strides. And Healing Strides brings hope and healing through working with horses. And when Anna was a little girl, she got up on that horse. And for the first time in her life, she had freedom from that wheelchair. Anna sits on this horse and she holds that sign that says, "Be boundless," because nothing can hold her back. And now Anna is 27 years old. 27 years old because of working with a nonprofit. And she has become the first certified instructor to ever achieve this designation from a wheelchair. The first one in the world. NANOE is about Jason. Jason served 4 tours in Iraq and Afghanistan. He came home with severe PTSD. And then he tried to kill himself 4 times. Jason had no meaning and purpose in this world until he got connected with a nonprofit. And he started volunteering, and he started leading, and he started helping other veterans with PTSD. And now Jason wakes up every day with meaning and purpose and a will to live. NANOE is about Sarah. Sarah was living the life in California, a thriving life of a young woman in her 20s, and then she was in an automobile accident. And in the blink of an eye, she was blinded for life. But then Sarah got connected with a nonprofit, and now she serves blind and low vision citizens, 750,000 of them in California. She serves them every day. NANOE is about Yendi. Yendi was born in Guatemala with nasal encephalitis. The doctors didn't think she was going to live, and if she lived, she would not have a life worth living. But a nonprofit called World Pediatric Project flew a team of physicians and medical professionals down to Guatemala and performed the surgery that Yendi needed. And now she is living and thriving because of a nonprofit. NANOE is about Tim and Melanie. Tim and Melanie were on the bottom of the housing ladder in South Carolina. They didn't have a place to live. They didn't have hope for tomorrow. And then they got connected with Habitat for Humanity. And they went through the programs, and they did the hard work. And they got into affordable housing. And then you know what they did? They paid off their mortgage. Tim and Melanie went from the bottom of the housing ladder to the top because of a nonprofit. NANOE is about these kids in Haiti, about Robert and Jean-Pierre and Mary Grace. These kids who were left on the street. And because of a nonprofit called Haiti Children, they were taken in. They were given food and shelter and clothing and education. And now in one of the most destitute places in the world, these kids have hope. They have a vision for their futures because of a nonprofit. So I want to be clear with you today that NANOE is about these children, about these families, about all the hurt and suffering that is in this world. And when you go home and somebody says, well, what were you doing in Charleston? I want you to tell them that you were talking about impact, about changing and saving lives. And when your fellow nonprofit professionals wave their hand dismissively at you and say, oh, those NANOE people, they send me emails all the time. They're so crazy. All those NANOE people care about is money. want you to stop them and say, yeah, they care about money because they care about kids, because they care about families, because they care about this world. Impact is changing lives plus saving lives, and there is nothing else that matters. Nothing in this world matters, and you have been put on this earth with a God-given purpose to achieve impact. But I want you to know that most of what you have been doing in your nonprofit is a waste of time. Board retreats, audits, staff meetings, database training, spreadsheets, writing grants, spending time in the office with your Keurig, retreats, committee meetings, social media. All of it is a waste of time because you cannot monetize these things for significant impact. You cannot achieve a heroic mission of scale if you are wasting your time doing all of these things. What you have been told for years about the way your nonprofit ought to work is wrong. I need you to understand that I'm not yelling at you this morning. I'm yelling with you. I'm screaming with you at this broken world. And what you've been told is wrong because there are only two things you need to do in your nonprofit. One is you need to comply with state and federal laws. But if you really take a look at what state and federal law requires of you, it is not much. You have great latitude. And the second thing you need to do is serve your donors. Those are the two things that matter. Complying with state and federal law and serving your donors. That's all you need to do. Now, what did I leave out? I haven't said anything about mission. I haven't said anything about the kids and the families, have I? But if you will understand that your mission is to your donors, that donors have needs, and if you invest deeply in these relationships and serve those needs, then you will have more money than you've ever had before, than you could ever imagine, to make a difference in the lives of children and families. I am yelling with you at this broken world because I am tired of it. I am tired of living in this broken world where children, where our sons and daughters are bought and sold for slavery, for sex every day. Do you know that human trafficking is now the number 2 criminal enterprise in the world? Billions and billions of dollars over buying and selling our sons and daughters. We may think we live in a safe world, but your nieces and nephews, your sons and daughters, your grandchildren are not safe. And this has got to stop. So as long as we live in a world where there is suffering and pain and hardship and tears, it is up to us. We can't rely on the government to fix this for us because the government is doing all they can do. We can't rely on the corporate sector to fix this for us because the corporate sector is doing all it can do. It comes down to us. So I'm not mad at you, I'm mad at the world, and I need you to be mad with me. And as a person of faith, I know a day is coming where there will be no more suffering, and no more heartache, and no more tears, and no more pain. But that day is not here yet. And until that day comes, we need to get this right. Nano is also about you. Because you have families. You have hopes and dreams. You have a vision for your future in your personal lives. You want to be happy. You don't want to be burned out. You don't want to have to work 60 hours a week. You don't want to be working hard today to pay for yesterday's bills. You want to have more money for your family, more money for your nonprofit. You want to take your kids to Disney World. Why is it that when we tell our staff that we're going on vacation with our family, somehow we feel guilty? Why is it that when we take our kids to the Grand Canyon, we feel like we've got to look at our email? So maybe if you don't take anything away from these 2 days, please take this away, that you need to have 4 weeks of vacation and your phone needs to be off. Because it's in that time that you get to do what really matters, which is spend time with your friends, family, and loved ones, and you get to be recreated.
Thank you.
NANOE is about you because I know you're frustrated. I know that there are days when you wonder if anyone is listening. Is anyone going to return your call? Is anyone reading your emails? Why am I doing this newsletter? Why am I killing myself for this event? Why do I have a board that doesn't show up and that's not effective? Why can't I find the right staff people? Why can't I find people who will work hard and believe what I believe about what needs to change in this world? The bottom line is you need to be paid more. And here's the problem, is that you've been told for years that, oh, we're a nonprofit, so we can't pay you very much. In fact, that's the first thing we say in every interview, right? We get a qualified person, we look at their resume, and that's the first thing we say. Well, you know, you just need to know that we're a nonprofit, so we're not going to be able to pay you very much. Because if you really believe in the mission, you don't need to get paid. And then what do? We work them like hell. We bring them in. We don't give them any orientation. We say, here's your office, go to it. They have no idea what they're doing. And then after 12 or 14 or 16 months, they're burned out, they're frustrated, and they leave. And then what do we say? Oh, well, their heart wasn't really in it. You know, their heart wasn't in the right place. They didn't really believe in what we're doing. You've been told for years that you should accept less money because when you accept less money, then more money goes to the mission. But I'm telling you today that the opposite is true. The more you are paid, the greater impact you will make. Because all of a sudden, your personal life has less stress in it. You're not so worried about everything that's going on at home. You've got money in your pocket to pay the bills and take your kids on vacation. And then when you have that time to be recreated and you're not stressed out at home, then your ability to think creatively about serving your donors and making an impact in your community is enhanced and it grows. And so the cycle is not we're going to pay you less so we can help kids more. The cycle is we're going to pay you more, you have a greater impact, and we're going to pay you more. And we need to reward people for the impact that they're having in this world, and we need to not be afraid to pay them and, yes, give them bonuses. Now, you're going to hear what Larry just said, which is we're not allowed to give bonuses in nonprofits. That's not ethical. Explain to me why it's not ethical to pay people for performance and reward them for hard work. Look around you. Everything in this room was bought or sold by someone. Somebody got a bonus for selling this ugly chandelier right here. So help me understand why we can't do this in the nonprofit world. The only change that matters is change that happens over the long term, and the way to achieve long-term impact is by keeping your employees happy. And the way you do that is with money. Why do we require people who serve the poor to be poor as well? Why do we come at this with this piety? This piety about the way things work in the nonprofit sector, and then we wear it like a badge of courage with our friends. Oh, you know, I work for a nonprofit. You know, I don't get paid very much. And then we go out and we beg, right? Every time we do an event, we go out and we beg a restaurant to give us macaroni and cheese and chicken for free. we go out and we continually tell people, oh, we're a nonprofit, you ought to give us a deal. When the opposite is true. What if we were able to go into our communities and pay the vendors what they deserve to be paid? And you know what happens over the long term if we develop these relationships and we pay people what they ought to be paid, our employees, our vendors, then it will come back to us times 10. But here's the world we live in. I want you to imagine with me for a second that you're sitting in your house one day and you see two moving trucks pull in, one to your left and one to your right. And you realize that there's a new family moving into your left and there's a new family moving into your right. So this new family on your left, they get done first, and you want to be a good neighbor, and so you bake some cookies. And you go over, and you knock on the door, and you give them a plate of cookies. And you start talking with this new couple, and you see their kids running around, and you figure out that they're pretty nice. And then a couple of weeks go by, and you see them in the yard, and you wave at them. And then one night, it's a beautiful, beautiful spring night, and you're going to grill out, and you say, hey, why don't you come over and grill out in the backyard with us. And so you get to know this couple, and you say, well, what do you do for a living? And the mother, the wife and the couple, she says, well, I'm an executive with Starbucks. And you're like, wow, that's cool. My neighbor is an executive with Starbucks. She said, yeah, I run the entire eastern half of the country for Starbucks. I'm like, oh, man, that's amazing. You have a great time, and she's leaving that night, and she says, hey, we're going out on the lake on our boat this weekend. Why don't you come with us? And so you said, sure, that'd be great. And you get to the lake, and you realize she's got the biggest damn boat on the lake. I mean, this is massive. You can sleep on this thing. And they've got 3 bedrooms on this boat. And you don't know how much it costs, but you know it costs more than ever you could ever dream of. And you're out on this boat, you're taking selfies with the Starbucks executive, right? You're happy, look at us. Yeah, and you're telling your friends, yeah, I'm hanging out with Joan. She's with Starbucks. We're cool. Joan's taking me to the football game. We got the box of the football game this weekend. And you're loving having your rich neighbor who's an executive with Starbucks. And one night after a few glasses of wine, you say, well, Joan, what are you bringing down? And she says $600,000. And you're like, wow, that's great. That's awesome. That's great that I have a neighbor that's getting paid $600,000 a year. And then this other neighbor moves in to the right of you, and you bake her a plate of cookies, and you take that over, and you get to know her. Her name is Susie. And the same thing happens, right? You start hanging out, you get to know her, and over a couple glasses of wine one night, you say, well, what do you do for a living? And she says, well, I work for a nonprofit. And well, what kind of nonprofit? Well, I'm helping kids in the third world. Oh, that's great. God bless you. It's wonderful that you're doing that. And then the next morning, you're drinking your coffee, and you look over, and you see Susie pull out of her driveway in a Mercedes. And you're getting a little irritated. You're thinking, well, I thought she worked for a nonprofit. And then a few weeks go by, and Susie and her husband invite you to come and spend a weekend at the beach at their condo. And you're getting irritated. You're like, wait a minute, I thought she worked for a nonprofit. So you go down to the beach and you have a great time. It's a nice condo, and you're drinking some more wine. You say, well, I'm just curious, what are you bringing down? And she says, well, I make $195 a year. And you're pissed. You're like, how can you take all the money from the children? So why is it that we live in a world where we're totally fine being on the boat with the Starbucks executive, but we're mad when the nonprofit executive is making a healthy salary? And what she's doing is much more important than serving a cup of coffee. Cash flow is king. Do you know the answer to 99 out of 100 questions in this world? Does anybody know the answer? Money. Money is the answer to 99 out of 100 questions in this world. And you want to know the answer to the other question? Money. Look, I'm a person of faith, and I understand that there's a spiritual currency. And that spiritual currency is love and grace and mercy and compassion and understanding. But we've been put in this world, and as long as we're in this world and as long as it's up to us, then the currency we've been given to achieve impact is money. What would it look like if you had 6 months of operating expenses in the bank for your nonprofit? What would it look like if you had an endowment that was spending off $200,000 a year for your nonprofit? What would it look like if you had money in the bank so that you could breathe, so that you could take some risks to achieve greater impact? Why is it that we ask people to do things differently when it comes to nonprofits? Why is it that we bring on a new board member and we say, well, you know, everything that you've learned in your personal life about needing insurance and saving for tomorrow and having a retirement plan and thinking about the future for your family, we need you to forget all of that. And everything that you've learned in your business life about capital investment and about taking risks and about financing, we need you to forget all of that because we're a nonprofit and it's different. Brothers and sisters, it is no different in the nonprofit world. And the common sense free market strategies that work in the world every day for people who are successful also work in the nonprofit sector. The way to grow your impact is to have more money in the bank. Please don't ever invite me to a silent auction. If I have to see one of these again, just shoot me. You know, those sheets with the pins, and you had to go around all week begging for the $25 car wash gift card, and for the set of golf clubs, and for the weekend at the beach. This is not how you achieve significant impact in your community. And please don't invite me to another golf tournament. The day of running these wonderful events with golf tournaments and bands and great food, those days are over. You are not going to impress someone with the event that you put on. And please stop posting to Facebook and Twitter and social media expecting somehow people are going to give you money because of you put up some cute picture on the internet. And please stop thinking that if you call somebody for $25, you're going to achieve significant impact. And don't do the bad math. I mean, have you ever heard the board member who says, you know, we could raise $1 million if 1,000 people gave $1,000? Stop relying on your board. Because traditional boards don't work. You've been told for years and years that you just need to have a better board. Oh, you just need to have a bigger board. Oh, you know, that CEO, that rich person, well, she needs to be on your board. And it's not true. It is not true. This might have worked 50 or 60 years ago when you could have board members named DuPont or Rockefeller or Ford. But now we have 1.5 million nonprofits in this country, and you're not going to get the bigwigs to serve on your board. You're going to get the bank vice president. And we love the bank vice president, but the bank vice president is 42 years old, she's got 3 kids, and she's making $90,000 a year. And she's wonderful, and she loves your organization, but she's not going to write you a big check, and she can't connect you with the people who will write you a big check. So stop thinking and being frustrated and being mad at your board and realize that it's up to you and your staff. My wife and I got out of town a couple of weeks ago. We went to Jamaica. And if there's a better place on this earth, please tell me where it is, because we were in heaven. And we were relaxing on the beach. Those are our 2 beach chairs right there with the towels. But it was early in the morning, and, you know, they're not in a rush in Jamaica to make the coffee, right? I mean, I got to have my coffee first thing. So we couldn't find any coffee, so we went walking down the beach thinking, well, maybe we'll find somebody that's open to give us coffee. And we walked down the beach a couple hundred yards, and there's this guy standing on the beach looking at the sunrise and the waves with a coffee mug in his hand. And we said, hey, where'd you get that coffee? We've never seen this guy. We don't know him. He doesn't know us. We said, where'd you get the coffee? He said, oh, I bring it, I make it myself. He said, you can't get coffee early in the morning in Jamaica. We said, oh, great. We just start talking, right? And I said, well, what do you do for a living? He said, well, I'm a consultant. He says, I help businesses get out of financial trouble. And I kind of chuckled because I said, well, I'm a consultant too. I help nonprofits get out of financial trouble. And he just started shaking his head. He said, oh. He said, I would never work with a nonprofit. And I said, well, what do you mean? He said, well, I've tried to work with nonprofits, but they're just ineffective. And they don't know what they're doing. And they never really get anything done. And I said, well, what do you mean? You'd never work with a nonprofit? Why is that? He said, the main problem with nonprofits? They have boards. He said, and once you put a group of people, 15 or 20 people in a room, you'll never get anything done. So let me tell you about my board, a board that works, with Bishop Redford and Kathleen Robertson and Jackson Doggett and Honey Korngold and Scott Hummerson. We have a small group of expert leaders who do two things. They provide advice and accountability. And what a board does is hold the CEO accountable and support the vision of a CEO. And here's what we do that's really crazy. We pay our board. Our board members get $1,000 for every in-person meeting and $300 for every conference call, and we have 3 or 4 a year. And then they get their travel expenses paid to come and be with us today. So we spend about $20,000 on our board every year. And your pious self, your pious nonprofit self says, oh my gosh, that's terrible. You can't pay your board. These are supposed to be volunteers, people who really believe in the mission. Are you telling me that your board is not worth $20,000? Do you think that anyone sitting up here today needs that $1,000 to get by? This is an honorarium. They're not making money off of this. We are honoring them because of the time and expertise that they're providing for our nonprofit. And so if that's too much for you, if you say, well, there's no way we could ever pay our board, then at least do this exercise. Which board members would you keep if you had to pay them? And what would it look like? What would it look like in your community for you to give honorariums to your board, for you to have a small board of 6 people, for you to have a line item in your budget for honorariums and travel expenses for your board? What would it look like all of a sudden for people to want to serve on your board? What would it look like if you could recruit the best and brightest board members because you honored them with your time? And you know what we have? 100% attendance.
Yeah, we do.
Because all of a sudden this little bit of money we give them, they show up for the conference calls and they're here today. So you're thinking, okay, all this is great, Lewis, but we're just at a conference. This is pie in the sky. We can't really do this for our organization. And I'm telling you, you can. And if you're really serious about impact, I need you to run a bulldozer through your calendar. And I need you to throw everything away that you're doing right now and start with a blank canvas, a blank sheet of paper, and write down the things that really matter. And I'm telling you that all the meetings you're having are a waste of time. Stop the one-on-ones, stop the staff meetings, stop the board meetings, stop all the things that you think you've got to do because someone else told you that they had to be done. I was in conversation with a nonprofit a couple of months ago, and we were talking about the amount of money that they needed to raise every year. And it turned out for these 2 leaders, they each needed to raise $3 million. $3 million over the course of a year. And I need you to do this math for you and your nonprofit. How much do you need to raise in a year? And here's the formula. You have 48 weeks to raise $3 million. That's right, 48 weeks, because you get 4 weeks to spend with your family and friends, 4 weeks of vacation. And you've got 40 hours a week to raise that money every week. Only 40 hours, not 50 or 60, because I don't want you burned out. And I don't want you on drugs or alcohol or mad at your family or yelling at your spouse. I want you healthy. So you got 48 weeks, you got 40 hours a week. That's 1,920 hours to raise $3 million in a year. That's your number, $1,562.50 per hour that you need to be raising. If you need to raise $2 million a year, that's $1,000 an hour. If you need to raise $1 million a year, that's $500 an hour. So please justify to me all of these other things that you're doing in your calendar, how they add up to this number. I was working, as Jimmy mentioned, as an organization. I was senior vice president of Principal Gifts, and I had an office. I had a corner office. I had this circular window that looked out over the city of Columbia. It was beautiful. And when I saw this office, I got my name plaque up there, and I brought in my Keurig and set up my little coffee area so that I could hang out in my office. But I was in charge of raising money. And every day I would come in, and we had lots of offices like this and lots of staff members. And I would get pulled in different directions every day to solve this problem or put out this fire or go to this meeting or spend time with this staff person. And I realized that every time I came into the office, I wasn't getting anything done to raise money to help kids. And so I talked to my CEO and I said, I'm going to take my desk out of my office. She said, what do you mean? I said, I don't really need my office. All I need is a laptop and a cell phone. And the problem is, every time I come into the office, I'm not getting anything done. So I'm going to have my desk taken out. And she said, that'd be great. So on Tuesday morning at 11:30, I had Ken. Ken was our facilities manager. Ken came with one of those hand carts, and he got my desk, and he wheeled it down the hall. And my office was empty. And I got a call 20 minutes later from my CEO. She said, what are you doing? I said, well, remember how we talked about getting rid of my desk? She said, I know we talked about it, but can you do that at night? Because people don't understand what's happening. Why are you getting rid of your desk? And people were appalled. People were shocked. I had a coworker come in and she said, what happened to your desk? I said, I got rid of it. And her mouth dropped open. She said, how are you going to get your job done? So I just set up a cocktail table and some notepads for when I had to be there so that I could come in and take some notes. But I wanted my office to be uncomfortable because I knew that if I was in the coffee shop or at the bar or at the Rotary meeting, I would achieve more impact for my organization. So one of the things I want you to consider is how you can make your office uncomfortable. Turn it into storage. Turn it into a place to meet with your donors. Instead of having an office with a desk, what if you got a couple of comfortable chairs and you made this into your impact zone where you met with donors when they came to visit? I need you to pick up the phone. Email and social media don't count. And I need you to understand that if you make 10 phone calls to qualified donors, you're going to get 3 meetings. But here's what we do in the nonprofit world. We make one phone call and somebody doesn't call us back and we get offended. We get hurt. Oh my gosh, they didn't call us back. We must not have a good organization. They must not like me. And I need you to create some emotional distance for yourself when you make these calls. Who cares if people don't call you back? Focus on the people who do. The 3 that do call you back, invest deeply in those relationships. Because you all know in baseball, if you bat 300, you're in the Hall of Fame. And it's the same with making phone calls to your donors. If you get 3 meetings out of 10 phone calls, you will be in the Nonprofit Hall of Fame for all of the money you're raising. You're sitting here and you're listening to all this. You say, well, Lewis, that all sounds great, but I got to go back to reality. I got to go back into my nonprofit. And I still got emails coming through right now. Some of you are probably wanting to look at your phone right now. It's staff emails. And you're like, well, if I don't spend time with my staff, things won't happen. The work won't get done. Brothers and sisters, your staff don't need you. Your donors need you. Your donors need to see you in the community, interfacing with them each and every day. And I promise you, whatever gets dropped on the program side, whatever problems come up because you weren't in the office, because you weren't with your staff, we can fix those things a lot more quickly than we can fix a broken relationship with a donor. What would it look like for you to truly listen and have 20 hours a week just to listen to your donors? To listen to their goals and their hopes and dreams for your community, and for you to figure out how your nonprofit can help your donors achieve their goals. And instead of going to donors and saying, "Give me, give me, give me," you're going to donors with open-ended questions and saying, "How can I serve you? How can I help you?" If you will simply focus on listening to your top 100 donors, then you will have more money than you know what to do with. And please don't tell me that donors get tired of hearing from you. Because this is what we do in the nonprofit world. We say, "Oh, well, Jack and Linda just gave, so we can't ask them for another gift." I love Bath & Body Works, and I buy about 2 or 3 times a year, I buy candles. And as soon as I buy candles from them, they are emailing me the next day to buy more. Do you think that corporations in your life are not asking you to buy more after you buy something? It's exactly the opposite. Bath & Body Works is not saying, "Oh, Lewis just bought candles, we can't ask him again." If you figure out a way to invest deeply in the lives of your donors and to find creative ways to thank them and involve them in your organization, and if you are constantly creating new programs and new offerings for impact, your donors will give over and over and over again. Recently, I went through the car buying process. And, I'm cheap, right? I mean, I went on to one car lot, and the guy says, "Well, what are you looking to pay?" I said, "I don't want to pay anything." So I want to get the best deal I can get. And so I use that website called TrueCar. Have you ever seen this? You go on to TrueCar, and it tells you what the average is that people are paying for that particular vehicle, and then it gives you the low end, right? So you can go in and lowball the car dealer, right? You make them shake their head and make them say that, "Well, we're not making any money off of this," right? So I got that price, right? But in order to get that price, I had to fill out an online form: name, address, telephone number, email. So I filled out this form, and here's what TrueCar does. They send my information to car dealers. Within 10 minutes of filling out that online form, this car dealer put my name on a whiteboard and sent me an email of a video that she had made with my name on a whiteboard saying, "We can't wait to welcome Lewis Fawcett to our dealership." And do you know why she immediately turned around and made that video of me? Because she wanted me to be a customer. She wanted to serve my needs. She wanted to get me to the dealership. And when I got to the dealership, for the test drive, there was a car sitting there with a tag on it that said, "Reserved for Lewis Fawcett." And do you know why she made this video? Because she's getting paid. And she knows that the more cars she sells, the more she gets paid. So are you telling me that you can't do the same for your donors? Are you telling me that you can't find creative ways to welcome your donors and invite your donors to be a part of your organization? Are you telling me that buying a car is more important than saving the lives of children? I filled out that form, and for 2 solid weeks, my phone blew up with car dealerships calling me to buy a car. And I promise you, I got the lowest price. They didn't make any money off of me. But they moved a unit, they sold a car, they served my needs. And so please help me understand why car dealers can blow up my phone over a car, but you can't blow up a donor's phone to help save a kid's life. Call over and over and over again, and don't stop until they say no.
There you go.
Right. Change will never happen if we don't make change happen. As I said earlier, we can't wait for somebody else to do this. This is only going to happen because it starts right here, right now, with the people in this room in Charleston, South Carolina. And if you're still thinking, "Well, Lewis, this will never work," my board will never change. There's no way that I can get my CEO to go along with this. There's no way that I can't show up for a meeting. There's no way that I can change my board structure. This will never work. Well, then let me come talk to your board. If you need help making this change, then let me help. Because I'll sit down with you and I'll come up with a 3-year plan for a huge impact in your community, for a heroic mission of scale, and then we'll associate a budget with that. And we'll take that plan for impact and that budget and we'll take it to your board. And if your board sees a heroic mission of scale with an associated budget and they can't get behind that, then that tells you something, doesn't it? It tells you that you may need to look for another organization to serve. Because there's some organizations and some boards that are never going to change. But at most boards that I work with, I see that when I connect the dots for them about the impact that they can make, they're willing to make the changes. So please invite me to come visit with your board. I'll get on a plane. I'll come see you. And if I can't do it, if we can't work out the calendar, there are other folks here in this room that will come and sit with your board and invest deeply in your organization. All right, Alan. All right, we're coming. Where are you? Leesburg, Florida. That's right, Leesburg, Florida. You know, I can't wait. I can't wait to come to Leesburg, Florida. It's right near Ocala, right? The horse country, right? All right. So I'm going to go see Alan, but I've got other folks in this room that are willing to come and sit with your board if I can't do it because I'm with Alan. Find one of us. Find one of us, and we will come and help you change your board. I don't know if you've ever heard of Alex Honnold. Alex Honnold is a free solo climber. He climbs without ropes. There are no ropes in this picture. He's hanging 1,000 feet above the canyon floor on his fingertips. He climbs without ropes because when he climbs without ropes, he is truly free. He is untethered. And he achieves things that no one else has achieved. Brothers and sisters, I'm asking you today to climb without ropes. I'm asking you to cut the ties to the past, to be untethered, so that you can truly be free to achieve what no one else has achieved. So that's my question to you. Is she worth it? Are they worth it? NANOE is about compassion and understanding and mercy. These are the things that drive us. These are the things that cause us to want to clear the calendar of all the time wasters so that we can monetize our relationships for maximum impact. So I need to know what you feel in your gut, because I believe that you came here today and you're in this room with us today because you feel in your gut that something needs to change within you. That there's a better way that you can be doing things, that there's a different way that you can be doing things. And you feel in your gut that your organization needs to change. And you feel in your gut that the nonprofit sector needs to change. Are you willing to disrupt your life? Are you willing to disrupt your calendar? Are you willing to disrupt the way you've been doing things for the sake of impact? Because there is nothing else in this world that matters. I want to thank each of you for spending time with us today. And I want to meet each of you personally and get to know you and hear how we can serve you. Thank you so much. God bless.